Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Joleen Aitchison here joining us once again. Excited to have her back on the show. We've been learning so much from her these past few months. Genealogy Your Way is the name of her company. That's genyourway.net. And she's here helping so many people and families, find their past, track down records. I mean, she does it all. And she's got a really unique approach. And of course, her personal history in genealogy and her own experience really, makes her very credible. And by the way, I'm sad to say that this is your last show, which I just found out. So I'm sorry about that, but It's been great working with you.
And you. I've loved it a lot. Really enjoyed myself.
Well, thank you, Joleen. So please tell us a little about what you do and, of course, about Gen Your Way and all the work that can help inspire people out there today.
Okay, I will do that. So I'll just repeat a little bit of what I've said in the past, just in case there's anyone who didn't hear it. I've been doing genealogy since I was a child. My grandmothers were wonderful about answering questions and helping me to learn more about our family and want to know more about our family. So as I got older, I discovered that I could actually look at records and take not just pictures, but records. And so over time, I've learned the skills. I've taken lots of classes, and about 1996, I did my first professional work, but I didn't form my company until 2011 when I did some national speaking. Before we did it all on Zoom, I traveled around the country, which was really fun. But I love my very favorite part of this is helping people find their family, whether I help them to learn how to do it themselves, which I do teach classes, or if I work with them one-on-one and they provide their family information to me so that I can find more for them. Either way, it's just my joy. I just love doing it. And in most cases, we don't find anything really exciting. Most people know enough about their families that they just want to know beyond what they already know. But we do find stories, and we find newspaper articles, we find pictures of their families, and those things make their ancestors come alive to them and help them feel like they can belong to them. So my company is Genealogy Your Way, and as Jill said, the URL is genyourway.net. You can also reach me at yourpedigree@gmail.com if you'd like to email me. I know there's another company out there with the same name, but she specializes in Italian research. So if you hit that one, that's not me. You want to keep looking. But that's what I do. And I just keep doing it on Zoom or in person or, any way that I can.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you here. You told us some great stories of how you've connected the dots for so many people. And being this is your last show, what did you want to talk about today for the finale, in a sense?
Well, I'm going to get to the Irish toward the end because St. Patrick's Day is this week. I'm wearing my green. I learned some interesting things about Irish population. However, what I really would like to do, and I'm going to actually hold up a piece of paper. I hope you can see it okay. This is a pedigree chart. I know it's backwards because I couldn't make myself write backwards, but this is a pedigree chart. And so for anyone who wants to just get started, they can draw something like this up and put themselves in the very first spot and then add their dad and his parents, and if they know, their great-grandparents, and then the same for their mother's line. That's how you get started. And if you can't fill in all those blanks, then you can go places like Ancestry.com, FamilySearch.org, MyHeritage. There's even for English-centric, there's Find My Past. There are many, many resources out there. And especially using Family Search where it's all free, and there's a wiki there that has amazing information. You can just look up, if you are Lebanese, you can look up Lebanese genealogy and it will tell you what's available and how to go about searching. But the very first step is that pedigree chart. And so anyone who wants to get started, just scribble one out or look online for a blank pedigree chart that you can print and fill out. They have PDF that you can fill out online. That's how to get started, because what happens is you find out what you know, and then you find out what you don't know. I had a client one time that we were clear back in the 1600s. And so instead of showing her pedigree chart from her and to her parents, then all the way back, I printed
Mm-hmm.
a pedigree chart from like her seventh great grandmother.
Oh,
And she
wow.
looked at it and she's like, that's really cool, but why is that line empty? And you're like, wait, we're in the 1600s. How can you, but that's what it does. It makes you see what you have and then what you don't have. And that's what you go after. So I just wanted to kind of stress that to people, that it's not really that hard. And if you get stuck, email me. I'll be happy to help you move forward. And if it's beyond what you feel like you can do yourself, I'll be happy to do it for you. So, and there are people like me all over the place, but of course I would love to do it.
Aw.
So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to bring up this time, because we've talked about it, but we haven't really made it visual for people. And I really have no idea how many people will see this, but all I need to do is reach one person. If I reach one person and it helps them to get going on their family history, then that's totally worth it to me. So that's
Aw.
subject one.
Aw, well, we love it. Thank you for so much for having us. I mean, and for breaking this down for us. And I tell you all the time, you taught me. I reached out to people in my family and my friends. Like, you need to start telling people, especially, no offense to the older generations, like my aunts and
Exactly.
uncles. Don't. It's an honor. We're asking you for your advice and your wisdom. Please put it in writing. Put it in an email so we have it, so we could use it. Even maybe not now,
Exactly.
but for the future, because you just never know. Like, my mom passed 5, 6 years ago, and I didn't get all that information.
Right.
I'm thinking, and it's like, I wish I had all that information. So now next best contact is her sister. So I'm trying to get it from
Yes.
her. But the importance
Yes.
of that and reaching out. Yes,
Well,
that's
I'll tell you what, Jill, if all I've done is help you to learn more about your family, it's been 100% worth it. So
thank
just so
you.
you know. Yeah. Well,
Thank
that
you.
makes me think, just this week, I got an email from a lady. I don't even know where she lives. I've never heard of her before, but she has a photo album that belonged to one of my direct line ancestors. And it turns out that her mother was adopted into the family. So the photo album's been in the family and she has loved it, but her grandmother asked her to make sure that it went to someone in the family.
Oh,
So she researched online, found my family tree, and then discovered that I'm also a professional genealogist. And I'm going to get that album tomorrow in the mail. It's like, that's the kind of thing
that's
that happens in this community. It's just amazing.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know. Did I tell the story of the Bible my husband brought home? He was building a house in England, and he and his partner went for a walk when they were off. They saw a big truck, which of course in near London is called a lorry, um, full of books. And it turned out there'd been an estate sale. Everything in the estate except the books was of some value, but the
Okay.
books, nobody wanted the books.
Oh,
So they let my husband and his partner dig around in the books. And because I'm a genealogist, this has been about 20 years ago now, um, he pulled an old Bible out. So I researched the family, found a descendant in Australia, and he didn't know that his family had ever gone back to England. This Bible showed people born in Australia, then living in England. And then they went back to Australia, but didn't take that Bible with them. So I mailed that Bible to a fireman in Melbourne, Australia, and he sent me a calendar, a fire station calendar. But it's that kind of thing, I guess. We learn about our families, but we become part of a community that's almost like family as we work together and help each other with learning more about our ancestors. So I think it's really important. Well, I obviously think it's really important that people know who their family is. And as you pointed out, the getting the older generation. I just lost an uncle recently, which puts us down to two people older than I am. And then it's me. And it's
yeah.
like, my resources are becoming more and more limited. And so And the other part of the age factor and having older relatives, let me touch on DNA a little bit, because that's like a new hot topic in genealogy. It's not super new as it was, but a lot of people find themselves getting involved in the research aspect of genealogy after they've done a DNA test. They weren't necessarily interested in their family as much as they were the ethnicity breakdown, like a lot of people take a DNA test just to find out what it says their ethnicities are. And but then they get contacted by someone who matches them and asks some questions about their families, and then they get involved in learning more about the genealogy part of it. I won't say 100%, but 99.9%, you can't do your family history with DNA only. You have to do genealogy. You have to have the documents to back it up. So there are three kinds of consumer DNA tests that people can take. The most common one is what's called autosomal, and that is the one that, so Ancestry has the biggest database for that.
It does. I was curious. Okay.
Yes, it has the biggest database. They do not do the other two tests, which are mitochondrial. That's your maternal line, your mother. The mitochondrial comes mother to daughter to daughter to daughter. And then there's the Y DNA, which is father to son to son to son. Now, the sons get the mitochondrial DNA, but they don't pass it on. So they get it from their mom, but they don't pass it to their children. Only the women pass that one along. So those are the three kinds. The one that's most useful genealogically most of the time is the autosomal. And that's what they offer at Ancestry. MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA offers the other two. There are several DNA testing companies, and you can just look online and find those companies. The advantage of going with the largest database is that then if you're looking to find extended family or take your family back further, you're more likely to find it that way. And the really interesting thing about the file that's created from your DNA is that you can actually download it and upload it to other DNA sites where you can then meet up with other cousins. I have a third great grandfather whose name we know, but we know nothing else. And we can't find any documentation of him. I'm still working on it, but I'm going at it from the DNA perspective now, I'm fortunate, I have both my parents' DNA. So I'm working with my dad's DNA and his matches so that I can try to identify this grandfather. And that's what people do. You use the genealogy and the DNA matches and work your way back. It's really fun for me. It's like detective work or a puzzle. It's really fun.
Now, what if some people are hesitant of doing the genetics part, right? Because it's like,
Yes.
I'm stored in a data bank, and that means, what does that mean? Are you a criminal? Are you scared of becoming a criminal? But people feel like that's a personal violation, and how they're connecting, to murders and to scenes. I love it. I think it's a great idea to keep us all connected. But some people, can you still get a good pedigree and chart without doing that, or is it kind of limited?
You can. No, it's not. But if you come upon what is called a brick wall where you just can't get past it, traditional genealogy can't help you. That's where a lot of genealogists will then turn to DNA and try to see if they can. You have to do this really complicated process to work with that very efficiently going backward. But I will tell you, as far as the privacy issue is concerned, there are only two companies that cooperate with law enforcement, and they only provide access to their customers who have said, yes, I will let them use it. So when they're doing those famous cold cases and things like that, they're really working with a limited amount of DNA. It's still very useful. But for people who don't want to do the DNA, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Traditional DNA or genealogy is really exciting. And when you find a newspaper, so I have a newspaper article from a little tiny town in Kansas. It says, Luella Bemis got a permanent today. That is what I learned about my grandma from the newspaper. And so you can learn, just little little tidbits of information, or those older small town papers, especially, they are, Mr. and Mrs. Jones had dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Thursday. And if those were your people, it'd be like, oh, well, why were they visiting the Smiths? Were the Smiths friends? Were they family? So there's a lot. You don't need to do DNA to do your genealogy, but it's fascinating. Any
Wow.
questions for me on that? No,
No,
yes.
no, this is good. I'm here. I'm listening. Cool.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I can get, I keep going.
To further detail. Go ahead. We have time. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess the main reasons that people do DNA, and that's why I wanted to bring it up too. One, if you have older relatives, now is the time to test them, because in my case, because I have both my parents and they're both still living, they just keep living. They're 87 and 93. But because I have their DNA, I'm one step closer without even having to work hard, because they have more. I only got half of each of their DNA, and it could be a random half. It's kind of a funny little thing. So I'm going to use my hands for a second. It's like the two DNA strands are right there next to each other, and they move up and down like this. And when a person is conceived, they hit. And so whatever 50% of their each parent is at that point, that's what the kid gets. So my dad, in his ethnicity estimate, shows that he is 35% English. His brother shows that he's 72% English. And that's all about this random selection of DNA. So it can be really interesting if you want to do comparisons and things like that. But the main reasons people do it are to find out their ethnicity breakdown, and to find family. So if neither of those is particularly interesting to you, you just like the paperwork and the search, then it's not needful. It's just interesting more than anything else. So that's the DNA.
Okay, got it. And
Yeah.
just to point out how we could reach you, it's jenyourway.net. If you're just tuning in, Joleen Aitchison here joining us. And again, she can help you in so many different ways with genealogy. Just reach out to her there on the website. You can contact her directly. But we still got time. We still got another 10 minutes. Let's continue the conversation. It is her last show today. I'm upset about this.
I know. I'm kind of sad about it, but it's been
she's
a lot
got
of fun.
lots of information.
Well, let's see. Let me, I brought two things. I brought one about, for one of my clients, one time he had Cuban family, and he was looking for more information on his family. And one of the things I found in the newspaper, they had immigrated to Florida. And one of the things I found was a riot between the international two cigar making unions in Florida. And this was relevant to my client's search, because his great grandfather was a cigar maker in Florida. Okay. So to find that article and to see how it probably impacted his company was just kind of a fun thing. And I thought that was sort of a reminder that we can just find all kinds of random things about our people. You just never know where you're going to find them. So Ireland. It's very interesting now. Most people, if they're Irish, are really Irish. And in my family, I thought we must be 100% Irish when I was growing up, because we were just Irish. Everything was Irish. We had the Irish blessing. My grandma and her sister danced a jig on the table. I mean, we were Irish. And when I started doing genealogy, I discovered that it's actually my third great grandmother who was full blood Irish. But the strong heritage in that family caused that history, or that part of our heritage to come down very strongly. In her case, she married a man who served in the Civil War. Let me think about this. Her daughter was also full-blood Irish. She married a man who served in the Civil War and was killed during the war. He died at the Battle of Antietam. She had two little girls. My great-great-grandmother was born after he died. but he had suggested her name, so she got his name. Well, the Irish woman raised her children without ever remarrying, so they were Irish, right? They just thought they were Irish. They didn't know their dad wasn't Irish, but their mom was Irish. And so when my great grandmother got married, she brought her whole Irish heritage with her to her children. That was my great great grandmother. My great grandmother learned all the Irish heritage from her mom, and then my grandma and my mom. I mean, she's like, "Don't tell me I'm not Irish because I'm Irish." So that's been a really interesting thing. On some DNA websites, no Irish shows up in my mom, and she's just like, "That's wrong. They are wrong." So that's another
It's
thing
more
about the
about what
DNA.
you believe. Oh, no, that's
I
true.
know,
But
I
I
know.
know
She's like, "No, I am Irish. Don't tell me."
you still could
And
be Irish. Don't worry. Tell her.
yes,
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. But that's another difference with the DNA and the paper trail too. We can take that trail right back to Ireland, and the strong, honestly, the maternal heritage in our family it's like we have just the moms are so influential in what everybody believed coming down. And so even my children are Irish, and
yeah.
they probably have a little tiny
All right,
speck in.
drop. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's really interesting. There was the potato famine in the 1850s, and that was where this awful rot got into the potato crop, and that was their primary crop in Ireland. And more than half of the population left the country during that time. So I asked Alexa today, Ireland, right in 2020, had 4.94 million inhabitants. In 2016, the United States had over 33 million people who identify as Irish. And you don't know how Irish they are, but it's that whole thing of coming down through the family. And, that's a lot of people who have the Irish ancestry and are interested in it. So that's when the people came, they were poorly treated. And in my husband's family, there's a tradition, and I'm just going to read you this little quote. Two young people unknown to each other from the village of Tubbercurry, County Sligo, Ireland, sailed to America. The family says that they each had an uncle in New York City who sponsored them entering the country. They were so unhappy with the way the Irish were treated in New York that they traveled by buggy and two horses with a cow tied on behind. At night, they slept under the buggy to Illinois. Probably there were other people with them because they weren't married at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They got married in Illinois. But the Irish are among the most poorly treated people who immigrated as an ethnic group. And that may be part of the reason that there's the big pride in being Irish, because there's the survival part that keeps people moving forward. But there was a little song that my grandma sang when I was a child, and it goes like this, and I'm not going to sing it. Me mother and father were Irish. Me mother and father were Irish. Me mother and father were Irish, and I am Irish stew. And you actually pronounce that Irish stew. We kept two pigs in the parlor. We kept two pigs in the parlor. We kept two pigs in the parlor, and they were Irish stew. And we just thought it was hysterical that grandma would dance around singing this little Irish song. So I really think I'm basically done, but I do want to share the traditional Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall softly upon your fields. The Irish are a very interesting group of people, hard drinking, happy, and positive, even with all the difficulties. And when you research your family history and it takes you into Ireland, you actually find those things about your people. You find how hard they worked. You find how they just made do and cause things to be better for their families. So I'm really thankful for my Irish heritage, even if I'm only a tiny speck these days. But I think that's just one example of where someone can say, my family came from Iran, and these are the traditions, and I want to connect with those traditions. And it can be anything. And that's what genealogy can do for people.
Oh, I love love it. Thank you. It can do so
Thank
much.
you.
We've learned so much from you. I hate to see you
Well,
go,
I'm glad. I'm
but
glad.
on to bigger and better things. But Joleen Aitchison, can you do me a favor? Tell us how we can reach out to you and the consultation you can provide.
Absolutely. My company is called Genealogy Your Way. The URL is genyourway.net, and that's genyourway.net. You can email me if you'd like to at yourpedigree@gmail.com. And I provide research services, education services, and just a friendly ear. If you run into a problem, I'm just happy to help in any way that I can.
Oh, and remind us again how we can reach you.
Again,
Yes, one more time.
genyourway.net and yourpedigree@gmail.com.
Thank you. And thank you for the knowledge you taught me about the Dead Fred website.
You're welcome.
Right. You taught me how to connect. Of course, you can find like old pictures, put them together, maybe
Yeah.
you could find someone that's in your family tree missing in a picture, figure out who it is.
Amazing.
And then the other one, what was the other one with the gravestones to find
Find your grave.
See, yeah, very helpful. And thank
Yep.
you for being here. And happy almost St. Patrick's Day to you. I see you got the
Thank
color
you.
of green and Irish on.
Yes, I do.
So wait, so did you ever do the DNA test? Are you just a drop of
Oh, yeah.
Irish, or are you
Actually, I don't show up with any Irish.
Oh, that's all
I
right.
know. My mom has a little bit, like I said, on different websites. It
So
shows up.
it adjusts every now and then too. She's like, see, I
Yeah,
told you.
well,
I told you.
Yeah.
But
And my
sometimes it
uncle.
matters what's within, what you believe is okay.
Exactly.
Okay. What about your uncle?
Well, his last name is Avery, but his sign says Mook Avery. Everything in his house is Irish, and he told my mom when he had his DNA tested, he said, "If it doesn't show me Irish, don't tell me. I don't want to know." I mean, we have the paper trail, we're Irish, but you don't always. It's because of that random. You just don't know which pieces you're going to get.
I know. My boyfriend's telling me, oh, I'm Greek. I'm 100% Greek. And he's 62. I'm like, no one's 100% anything. Stop. So for Father's Day last year, I bought him the test. He's not 100% Greek. I'm like, nobody's 100% anything anymore. So he was like,
No,
I still am more Greek than I'm like, yeah, but you're not like a purebred. And don't be ashamed. It's okay. We are who we are. But some people take that to heart. Yeah.
They do, because that's the piece they held on to. There was a chef who was on one of the, I think, Who Do You Think You Are, I think, or maybe Finding Your Roots. And she was Italian. She's an Italian chef, and that's what she does. Their whole family is Italian. And then she found out that they're Slovakian who immigrated to Italy because of the persecution. So that was really hard. It's like, no, I'm still Italian.
Exactly. Own it. Well, thank you again, Joleen. Have a fantastic day.
You.
And I'm sure we'll connect again somewhere in the future.
We'll
say goodbye.
I'll
leave it off as I'll see you soon.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.